The Rooster Who Forgot the Time. Long ago, near the ancient city of Benares, there stood a peaceful academy nestled among tall banyan trees. A wise old teacher lived there with 500 eager students. Every morning, their beloved golden rooster would crow at the first light of dawn, waking everyone just in time for their studies. The golden rooster was truly special. He crowed at exactly the right time every single day, never a moment too early or too late. At dawn he sang to begin the lessons, and as the sun set, his evening call told the students it was time to rest. The academy hummed with happy learning, and the students grew wise under their teacher's care. But one sad day, the beloved golden rooster grew old and passed away peacefully in his sleep. The students were heartbroken. Without their faithful timekeeper, nobody knew when to wake up or when to rest. The mornings became confused, and the once joyful academy fell quiet and disorganized. One day, a student went to collect firewood near the old cemetery grove at the edge of the forest. There among the wild bushes, he spotted a rooster. It was a scraggly, dark-feathered bird with wild, confused eyes. Excited, the student caught the rooster and brought it back to the academy. Everyone cheered, thinking their problems were solved. But that very first night, the trouble began. In the dead of midnight, when every star was shining and every student was fast asleep, the cemetery rooster suddenly let out a tremendous crow. The students jumped out of their beds in a panic. They lit their oil lamps and began studying, thinking dawn had arrived. But when they looked outside, the sky was still pitch black. Things only got worse. The cemetery rooster crowed whenever he pleased. He crowed at midnight, he crowed at noon, he crowed during the quiet afternoon study hour. The poor students were exhausted. They stumbled through their lessons with heavy eyes, yawning and nodding off during the teacher's words. Their scrolls lay unread and their minds grew foggy. Finally, the frustrated students went to their wise teacher for help. The old sage listened patiently and shook his head with a gentle smile. He said, "This poor rooster grew up wild in the cemetery, with no mother hen to guide him and no farmer to teach him. He never learned when to crow and when to stay quiet. It is not his fault, but he cannot be our timekeeper." The teacher gently carried the cemetery rooster to the edge of the forest and set him free among the wild birds where he belonged. Then turning to his students, the wise teacher said, "Remember, children, without proper guidance and teaching, even the most willing heart cannot know the right way. That is why we must always value our teachers and learn with patience, for good habits come from good guidance." And from that day on, the students never forgot this lesson. Moral: without proper guidance and teaching, even a willing heart cannot know the right way. The Wise Judge and the Stolen Necklace. In a small village near Benares, there lived an old woman who was very poor but very clever with her hands. She spent many days carefully weaving beautiful colored threads together, red, gold, and blue, into the most wonderful necklace anyone had ever seen. She scented it with sweet flower perfume from the wild jasmine that grew outside her door. One warm afternoon, the old woman went to the village bathing pool to wash. She carefully placed her precious necklace on a flat stone by the water's edge. A young woman who was bathing nearby spotted the colorful necklace. Her eyes grew wide with greed. "What a beautiful thing," she thought. "I want it for myself." "Oh, may I try it on?" the young woman asked sweetly, picking up the necklace. "It looks so lovely." But the moment she clasped it around her neck, she turned and ran as fast as she could. "Stop! That is mine," the old woman cried, chasing after her through the dusty village streets. A crowd gathered as both women shouted, backslash 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 it is my necklace. I made it with my own hands, backslash 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 cried the old woman. Backslash 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 nonsense. This is my necklace. I have worn it for years, backslash 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 the young woman lied boldly. The villagers looked back and forth, confused. No one could tell who was telling the truth. Backslash 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 let us take them to the wise judge backslash 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 someone suggested. Both women were brought before the wise judge, who sat calmly on a raised platform under a shady neem tree. He listened patiently to each woman's story. Then he smiled thoughtfully and asked a single question. Backslash 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 tell me, what perfume did you use to scent this necklace? The young thief spoke first with a confident smile. I perfumed it with the finest and most expensive blend of all perfumes, sandalwood, rose, and musk mixed together. The old woman answered simply, I am too poor for fancy perfumes. I used the wild jasmine flowers that grow by my door. The judge nodded slowly, a knowing look in his eyes. The wise judge called for the village perfume seller. He dipped the necklace in a bowl of water and asked the expert to smell it. The perfume seller sniffed carefully and announced, there is no expensive perfume here. This necklace carries only the sweet scent of wild jasmine flowers, nothing else. The crowd gasped. The young thief's face turned red with shame. The wise judge returned the necklace to its rightful owner, the old woman, who wept with joy. Remember, the judge said to the crowd, the truth has a scent of its own that no lie can hide. Honesty may be simple, like a wildflower, but it always shines brighter than the most expensive perfume. And from that day on, the people of the village called the old woman's necklace the Jasmine Necklace and told her story to their children for many years to come. Moral: the truth always reveals itself, for honesty shines brighter than any lie. The Mouse Merchant. In the great city of Benares, there lived a wise old treasurer named Color Cassetti. One morning, as he walked to the royal palace, he noticed a dead mouse lying on the road. He stopped, looked up at the stars, and spoke aloud with a knowing smile. Any clever young person with sharp wits could pick up that mouse and start a business, and even find enough to support a family. A poor young man standing nearby heard every word. The young man thought to himself, the wise treasurer has never been wrong. If he says this mouse can start a fortune, then I shall try. He picked up the dead mouse and carried it to the nearest tavern. The tavern owner's cat was hungry and meowing loudly. I will buy that mouse for my cat, said the cheerful tavern owner, handing him one small copper coin. With that single coin, the young man's great adventure began. With his single coin, the clever young man bought a pot of sweet molasses and a jug of cool water. He carried them to the edge of the forest where flower gatherers were returning tired and thirsty from their work. Have some sweet water, he called out kindly, offering each one a sip and a taste of molasses. Grateful for his kindness, each gatherer gave him a handful of fresh flowers. He sold the flowers in the marketplace and used the money to collect fallen branches from the royal garden, which he sold to the king's potter for fuel. Day by day, coin by coin, his small fortune grew. The young man's cleverest idea came next. Every day, 500 grass cutters worked outside the city gates, harvesting grass to sell. The young man began bringing them fresh water and sweet treats, asking for nothing in return. The grass cutters grew to love and trust him. You are the kindest person we know, they told him. If you ever need our help, just ask. The young man smiled and thanked them, knowing that true kindness always finds its reward. One day, a wealthy horse dealer arrived in Benares, desperately needing fresh grass for his 500 horses. He searched the entire city, but all the grass cutters said the same thing. We are sorry, sir, but we promised our friend that we would sell our grass through him first. The horse dealer had no choice. He went to the young man and bought all the grass for 1,000 silver coins. In just a few months, the young man had turned a single dead mouse into 1,000 pieces of silver. But the young man was not finished yet. When a great merchant ship sailed into the port of Benares, loaded with goods from faraway lands, he saw his biggest opportunity. He hired a fine carriage and drove to the port looking like a wealthy merchant. He met the ship's captain and cleverly arranged to buy the entire cargo before anyone else even knew the ship had arrived. Then he sold the goods to 100 eager merchants for a great profit. The young man returned to Benares with 200,000 silver coins. He was now one of the wealthiest people in the entire city. But he never forgot who had started it all. He went straight to the home of the wise old treasurer, carrying 100,000 coins as a gift. "Dear sir," he said, bowing respectfully, "everything I have, I owe to your wise words about a dead mouse on the road." The wise old treasurer was so amazed and proud that he gave the young man his own daughter's hand in marriage. A grand wedding was held in Benares, and the young man who had once picked up a dead mouse from the road became the new city treasurer. And everyone in the city told and retold his remarkable story, how with just a tiny beginning, a clever mind, hard work, and a kind heart, even the smallest opportunity can grow into the greatest fortune. Moral: with a humble beginning and a clever mind, even the smallest opportunity can grow into the greatest fortune.